Hey everybody, it's been forever since I did the last video, which was, I think was only the second. I told you I didn't know how often I would get these done, and I'm proving that. So today is the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, just to give you an idea timeline wise, because I don't know how long it'll take me to edit. The last one, I think it was a month before I got to be able to get to it to edit it. But I thought this one would be a nice one to talk about news, social media, research, all that kind of stuff. Because one of the things that we're having to deal with is people not trusting the media that's on, like ABC, CBS, NBC, but also not CNN or MSNBC or Fox. We've got reasons for that. They did go to court and paid a lot of money for lying. But so those news networks, you'll hear people on both sides say they don't trust this, they don't trust that. And if you do the research, most people get their information, news type of information, from off of social media. And okay, that's good. We need to adapt and change and everything. And that's part of what the podcasts have been talking about is, the left needs to get used to not going to legacy media any further. You still go to them, but they need to also start using the podcasters and other types of social media to gain the attention of those who live in the social media world, right? I think that's kind of Gen X, probably the later years of Gen X. I think I'm kind of in the middle. I'm okay with some stuff, but other stuff I just kind of refused. Like I refused to do TikTok. I refused to do Snapchat. Reddit, I'm not really refusing to do. I just have never gotten into Reddit. So the social medias I use are Discord and now Blue Sky. I had an account on Twitter. I hardly ever used it. And now I can't get back onto it to even delete it. Well, quote, delete it. You can't truly delete it, but I can't even get on there because they want me to change my password. And I'm like, no. As soon as Musk took over, they wanted me to change my password. And I was like, no. If I can't keep my password, then I'm not going to bother going on anyhow. That's my charging area. I'm trying to hide it. It's not working too well. Sit taller. So Blue Sky, Discord, and I'm trying to leave Facebook. I have my Sherry Obsessed account on there, but any other accounts I'm not doing. So yeah, we need to get used to it. I think after Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, and what they call Zennials. I was like, there's a unique name for those that are kind of Gen X and millennial kind of rolled up. Zennials. So I think from that point on is where the social media really took off. Not saying that those of us in the older generation don't get on the other types of social media. My dad's more active on some of that than I am. He's more savvy on his phone than I am. So we're talking in general, not not any specific type of situation. That's not really a problem, but that's one area that we've got to look at. But then the question becomes, how do we trust the information that's out there? I was talking with somebody recently about how in the 70s and 80s, we used to hear all the time about journalistic integrity. And there are some that still do that. But even the news that I follow HuffPost. HuffPost used to have very neutral headlines, but now they've got these clickbaity headlines, and I hate it. You can tell which way the article is going to lean. And so I purposely don't share the ones that are using language that has an obvious lean to it. But at the same time, I mean, YouTube is notorious for this. People put clickbait stuff in their titles all the time. In fact, one of the folks that I follow, Brian Tyler Cohen, has talked about this. And it's, what do you do in order to get the algorithm? Because everything's based on algorithm nowadays. You have to get people to click and watch. And not only that, that's not enough anymore. They need to share, and they need to subscribe, and they need to do this, and they need to do that in order for their stuff to get out there, their information to get out there. So they'll put these real clickbaity titles in. What Brian did, because folks were saying, hey, you've got some really good information in this video, but there is no way my family on the right are going to even possibly view it because the title is so inflammatory. And so Brian has got a second channel that is just Brian Tyler Cohen News, and he doesn't do the inflammatory language on there, so that folks that want to share his videos but are afraid of the inflammatory stuff can share that instead. I don't know how that's going for him because that is a new thing that he's doing. But yeah, I mean, people say they don't want clickbaity titles, they don't want inflammatory language, they don't want this, they don't want that. But then if the person doesn't do it, they don't watch the information. They don't, and the information inside of it's not necessarily inflammatory. Legal Eagle is another I love to watch. He always presents both sides of whatever the legal situation is that he's presenting. And if you watch the videos, you can see where he's giving both sides of it. And he'll say, not so fast, it's not quite that easy, or, this, that, or the other thing. You can tell which way he leans, but he still presents both sides of the argument. And that's how all news should be. It doesn't matter if you can tell which way they lean. You should be able to hear the information they're presenting. David Pakman has gotten good ratings on Ad Fontes. I don't know how they pronounce it. Ad Fontes Media. Correct me if I'm saying the Fontes part wrong. Maybe it's just fonts. Ad Fontes Media. But they have an interactive map. It used to be free, but they've expanded, and now you have to pay for certain levels. But it tells you which way the medium leans and which way it also goes as far as information. Is it full of crap? Is it got some surface area information? Have they done some research? This is super investigative, kind of stuff. And so not only do you have left versus right and in the middle, but you also have how depth of the information you've got. And so I like using them. And David Pakman, although leans left, has gotten a rating in the past, I haven't seen it recently, of where he is good about presenting both sides of the argument. And from the clips that I've seen of David, I agree. But another question that I was also thinking about with all these podcasters and pundits and entertainment channels and all this that aren't outright news that we know of, what policies do they have to follow? Do they have to follow the FCC? And what does the FCC say? How reliable is this information? Are they allowed to give themselves a news title without following the journalistic integrity part of things? Can we go back to the days where information was just presented and we made up our own minds on how we felt about it? I'm not saying get rid of legacy media. I like some of it, so I'm not saying that, but we need to. I got a shirt. I can see it in the video. Let's just do this. As you can see, I had my hair cut since last time as well. I think they cut a good 8 inches off, so they cut a lot off. As soon as she put that cape on, heat. She's like, I can feel the heat coming off of you. I said, yeah, cut the hair fast because I got to get this cape off. But if somebody is going to say that they're presenting accurate and news information, I want to be careful about saying truthful and that kind of stuff because, the information that you're presented, you may not like it, although it may still be the truth. And there's stuff that we like that's not necessarily truth or the whole truth. What we used to call yellow journalism. It's a little nugget of truth, and they didn't tell you all this part of it, right? Which we're seeing a lot with our politicians. But what can we do about media and social media and news so that we've got accurate information out there that isn't governed by the government, because people don't want to feel like the government is trying to spin their truth, but also so that we know that the information that we're getting is accurate information. People can research. Yeah. I mean, I say it all the time. Do the research. I've said it till I'm blue in the face to my nephew. Do some research. And then when he does do the research, he only picks the parts he wants, such as he wants to argue about making marijuana legal, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, so what are your arguments for it? Trying to get him to be a good debater, right? And he'll send me this news article supporting his claim that it cures cancer. I was like, okay, the article that you've submitted doesn't say it cures cancer. It says they're researching it for that, or I forget what the exact title was. So it might not have been cures cancer, but I said, so it says that it's researching it and still looking into it. It can't claim that it cures cancer, but it is claiming that things are looking that way. That's not the same thing. And he grumbles and goes off until he finds some other resource that backs up his opinion, right? The hotline I first worked at while I was still in college, one of the policies that we had is part of it was information and referral. So people would call in and ask about information on this or that. And sometimes it was about medication. And we had the physician's desk reference, the PDR, but we also had other manuals. They're not manuals, but books that had medicine information in it. There was about 5 different resources for that. And our policy was, before we could give out the information, we had to get the information from two sources. So that was our policy, so that there was some consistency, especially since we weren't pharmacists. I was like, what's that word? Especially since we weren't pharmacists, we weren't doctors, anything like that. And so that was one way to try to back ourselves. We also said what resource we were using and all of that. You know, we named our source. So how can we get news and social media and all of that to accurately give information, or if they don't want to do that, then have it clear that they are an opinion channel or station or podcaster or journalist, or whatever it might be. How do we separate those two? Because people can't tell the difference between an opinion piece and a factual piece anymore either. So how do we keep news so that it's trustworthy, and then opinions stay opinions, and hopefully gain the trust of people again? So that's what I've been pondering as far as, if I were president, how would I handle news and social media and all of that? My instinct is I would want to have clear policies, and there might be, they're just not enforced, but clear policies in the FCC. But then that's government regulating, right? So how do we make it so that it's not government regulating, and so that it is standalone from the government? Kind of like the three branches, right? We've got the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. They're all equal to each other. They stand alone, but are equal to each other. And so how could we do that with a regulatory organization for our news and information, so that we know who to trust again? What are your thoughts? What do you all think? What do we need to implement to start gaining trust again? I will talk about my frustrations and other things where I will present the source straight from the horse's mouth, or straight from the organization themselves, or whatever it might be. Here is the research, here is this, here is that, and I don't trust that. It's like, well, okay, you don't trust that, but you trust this that has no research, no science, none of this, none of that. It's like, come on. So what would you do? What is the fix to getting a reliable, or more than one reliable? It definitely needs to be more than one. But where do we get these reliable news sources that both sides and everyone in the middle can present on, as well as gather information from? Tell me your thoughts.